We've been hearing Death proclaiming his gospel, his message of cynicism and disillusionment, and trying to convince Savitri of the uselessness, meaninglessness of ideals, the hollowness and falsehood of all ideals. And he's going to continue with that. So I'll read to the end of the canto. An extract pressed from hard experience. Man's knowledge cast in the barrels of memory has the harsh savour of a mortal draught. A sweet secretion from the erotic glands, flattering and torturing the burning nerves. Love is a honey and poison in the breast, drunk by it as the nectar of the gods. Earth's human wisdom is no great-browed power, and love no gleaming angel from the skies. If they aspire beyond earth's dullard air, arriving sunwards with frail waxen wings, how high could reach that forced, unnatural flight? But not on earth can divine wisdom reign, and not on earth can divine love be found. Heaven born, only in heaven can they live, or else there too perhaps they are shining dreams. Nay, is not all thou art and dost a dream? Thy mind and life are tricks of matter's force. If thy mind seems to thee a radiant sun, if thy life runs a swift and glorious stream, this is the illusion of thy mortal heart, dazzled by a ray of happiness or light. Impotent to live by their own right divine, convinced of their brilliant unreality, when their supporting ground is cut away, these children of matter into matter die. Even matter vanishes into energies vague, and energy is a motion of old naught. How shall the ideal's unsubstantial hues be painted stiff on earth's vermilion blur, a dream within a dream come doubly true? How shall the will-o'-the-wisp become a star? The ideal is a malady of thy mind, a bright delirium of thy speech and thought, a strange wine of beauty lifting thee to false sight, a noble fiction of thy yearnings made. Thy human imperfection it must share. Its forms in nature disappoint the heart, and never shall it find its heavenly shape, and never can it be fulfilled in time. O soul, misled by the splendor of thy thoughts, O earthly creature with thy dream of heaven, obey, resigned and still, the earthly law. Accept the brief light that falls upon thy days. Take what thou canst of life's permitted joy, submitting to the ordeal of fate's scourge. Suffer what thou must of toil and grief and care. There shall approach, silencing thy passionate heart, my long, calm night of everlasting sleep. There, into the hush from which thou camest, retire. So he's summing it up. He's speaking about knowledge, about love, about wisdom.
An extract pressed from heart experience, man's knowledge cast in the barrels of memory has the far savour of a mortal draught, a sweet secretion from the erotic glands, flattering and torturing the burning nerves. Love is a honey and poison in the breast, drunk by it as the nectar of the gods.
So first he speaks about man's knowledge, the kind of knowledge that human beings have. He says it's something that's been extracted, pressed from hard experience. He's giving the image of getting juice from grapes to make wine. You have to press the grapes so that the juice runs out, and you separate the juice from the fruit, and then it's kept in big wooden barrels that are called casks. So he says human beings, from the experience that they have, they've pressed out some kind of extract, some juice, some the best part or the essential part, and they've kept it in these casks of memory. But he says that wine, that drink that comes out then, it has a very bitter taste. The harsh savour. Savour means taste. We have the word savoury for something that tastes attractive, no? This is a harsh savour, bitter, unpleasant savour of a mortal draught. A draught is a drink, something that you drink. A mortal draught is a drink that kills you.
Yes? I have a question about
in the barrels of memory. Which memory?
The human memory.
Human.
Hmm?
Not from the past?
Yeah, from the past, yeah. But also in our life we learn certain things, and we feel, oh, I've experienced that, I know that, no? So we're keeping the extract of that experience, and we keep it in these barrels of memory. So I think what death is trying to say, or is trying to convince Savitri here, is that all this human knowledge, what human beings, what the human race relies on as knowledge, it's based on past experience, and what it sums up to is not something that gives life, it's something that gives death. Tastes bad, it tastes like poison. That's what he says.
Okay.
It's an extract pressed from hard experience, casked in the barrels of memory, and it has the harsh savour of a mortal draught, a drink that will poison you. And then that's his summing up of what is human knowledge. And then human love. He says this is just some kind of sweet tasting secretion. Secretion is a liquid that comes out of the glands, these different parts of our bodies. So he says the erotic glands, the glands that stimulate sex or are stimulated by sexual excitement. This pleases the nerves and it tortures them. The feeling that comes is one of great intensity, so it's both pleasing and painful. Love, he's talking about love. Love is like honey. It's sweet, delicious, but it's also a poison in the breast. And the breast, the heart, drinks it up as if it is the nectar of the gods. The nectar of the gods. The gods live on amrita and on, nectar. That's the drink of delight that keeps them immortal. The ancient Greek gods, they drank nectar and they ate ambrosia. So these were the foods that kept them immortal. So you are drinking all that poison down as if it were giving you immortality. It's not like that. And then he speaks about wisdom.
Yet human wisdom is no great borrowed power, and love no gleaming angel from the sky. If they spire beyond earth's dullard air, arriving onwards with feral oxen wings, how I could reach that forest on natural flight.
Yes. So, Earth's accumulated human wisdom, it is not a great-browed power. It's not really wise. No, it doesn't have the wide, pure brow of wisdom. And this love that you talk about, it's not really a gleaming, shining messenger of God, an angel from the skies. Maybe Earth's wisdom and Earth's love, they do aspire, they try to get beyond this earthly atmosphere, or to carry us beyond this this dullard air, this dull smog, this polluted air of earth. And they try to carry us towards the sun. But their wings are not real powerful wings. He says they are frail, waxen wings. And when he uses this word waxen, this is an allusion to another old Greek story. It's the story of the great engineer Daedalus, who created an incredible... He did many wonderful things, but the main thing that he's remembered for is creating the labyrinth, the palace and the labyrinth in Crete, in ancient Knossos. But then the king wouldn't let him go. He wanted to keep him there because he had these secrets about the palace in his mind. So what Daedalus did was to make wings for himself and for his son out of wax with feathers. And how they flew them, we don't know. But the story is that the son, young Icarus, he thought it was so marvelous to fly, and he went too near the sun. So the sun melted the wax, and he fell into the sea. So there's some famous paintings of the fall of Icarus. He was trying to fly too high. So Death is using that image, that earth, human wisdom and human love. They may want to fly very, very high, but if they're trying to reach the sun with their weak wings made of wax, how high can they go? How high could reach that forced, unnatural flight? They are not meant to fly. So it can't possibly work, really.
But not on earth can divine wisdom reign, and not on earth can divine love be found. Heaven born, only in heaven can they live. Or else they're true, perhaps they are shining dreams.
Yes. So divine wisdom cannot rule on earth. It has no power there. And divine love cannot be found on earth. Because divine wisdom and divine love are heaven-born powers. They've been born in heaven, and they can only live in heaven. But then he says, but perhaps even there they are only shining dreams. Perhaps even in heaven they have no power and no reality.
Nay, is not all thou art, and the dust a dream? Thy mind and life are tricks of a metal force.
Continue.
If thy mind seems to thee a radiant sun, if thy life runs a swift and glorious stream, this is the illusion of thy immortal heart, dazzled by a ray of happiness or light.
Yes. And then he says, maybe they are shining, wisdom and love are shining dreams even in heaven. And then he says to Savitri, isn't everything that you are and everything that you do, isn't it all a dream, an illusion? You think you have a mind, you think you have a life, you think you have a heart, but this is all tricks of matter's force, of material energy. Your mind may seem to you like a shining sun that casts light, helps you to understand the world around you. And maybe your life feels as if it's running swiftly like a wonderful river, powerful river. But he says this is just the illusion of your heart, which is mortal, subject to death. It's just been dazzled. When a light is too bright, we can't see. We are dazzled. So he says your mind and your heart have been dazzled by just one ray of happiness or light. Light in the sense of knowledge. Chandra.
Important to light by their own right divine, convinced of the brilliant unreality. When the supporting ground is cut away, these children of matter into matter died.
Yes. So again he's speaking about love and wisdom. They don't have the power to live by their own inner divine right. But they are convinced they're convinced about their own reality, although it is unreal. But when their supporting ground is cut away, when the body dies, then this wisdom and this love also dies back. Because earth wisdom is not something eternal. It's a child of matter. Earthly love is not something immortal. It's a child of matter. When there's no base for them, their supporting ground is cut away from them, then they too will die. Leela.
Even matter vanishes into energy space, and energy is a motion of all beyond. How shall the ideals unsubstantial hues be painted stiff on earth's vermilion blur? A dream within a dream come doubly true.
One more line.
How shall the will become strong?
Yes. So he'd already pointed out that matter is an illusion. Even matter vanishes into this vague. We use the word vague usually in English to mean something that's unclear and misty. But of course it's the French word for a wave. And I think here it has this double meaning. The wave of energy, or the waves of energy. And that energy is just a movement of the old original nothingness. So since matter doesn't have any reality, how shall those unsubstantial hues, those very, very delicate, fine colours of the ideal, which are like the colours of the rainbow, they are unsubstantial, you can't touch them or hold them. How are those lovely colours going to be painted stiff on matter? If we paint something, we want the paint to become stiff and to stay there. On this blur, this unclear mark, which is the earth. And he says it's vermilion, the colour of the physical, a very intense orange red. So that would be a dream, the dream of the ideal, within a dream in the material world. Both of them are unreal. how can they both become true? A dream within a dream become doubly true. How shall a will-o'-the-wisp become a star? I have to explain about the will-o'-the-wisp. When there are swampy places with a lot of water and rotting vegetation, there are gases that emanate, and they give off light. You can see this phosphorescent light. And there are so many stories about people wandering at night in those swampy areas, and they think they see the light of a house, and what they're seeing is just one of these will-o'-the-wisps, as if it's a little person or a little imp deliberately misleading you. It's made from a wisp of mist, but it's light. It gives its misleading light. So a will-o'-the-wisp is something that's misleading and has no real light of its own. So how can that become a star, a sun of truth? Impossible. Uday.
The ideal is a madly of mind, a bright dream of the speech and thought, a strange wine of beauty lifting there to false sight.
Thank you. So this ideal, which I've shown you, all these beautiful ideals, these are just something, a sickness, a disease of your mind. A malady is a disease. And when we have a high fever, the brain may not work properly, and people say and do all kinds of things in a state of delirium when the mind is not working properly. So he says this ideal, it's like that. Some sickness, some trouble in your brain. You speak it out, you think it out, but it has no basis really. It may seem to you like a strange wine of beauty that's intoxicating you, making you delirious, that's lifting you up to false sight, to a kind of vision that is absolutely untrue and unreliable. Sergei.
A noble fiction of the Unix made, like human imperfection, it must share its forms, image to the point of the heart, that never shall hide its heavenly shape, and never can it be fulfilled in time.
Yes. So the ideal, it's a fiction, it's made up, it has no reality. But he admits that it's a noble fiction. Ideals have some nobility, but they are just a creation of your wishful thinking, of your yearning. And because it's a product of the human longings, it has to share your human imperfection. An ideal can never really be realized in matter. When we try to realize them in nature here on earth, its forms are disappointing. We notice that that was not the ideal that we dreamt of. And it will never find its heavenly shape, and it will never be fulfilled in time. So he's being very, very discouraging. Who's next? Joel.
O soul misled by the splendor of thy thoughts, O earthly creature with thy dream of heaven, obey, resign and still the earthly law. Accept the brief light that falls upon thy days. Take what thou canst of life's permitted joy, submitting to the ordeal of fate's scourge. Suffer what thou must of toil and grief and care.
Yes, thank you. So he addresses her as a soul, O soul, misled, led astray by the splendor of your thoughts. So she's a soul, but she's also an earthly creature with your dream of heaven. You are an earthly creature, so you have to obey the earthly law, the laws of earth nature. So you had better resign yourself to that. You must accept it. You must be still. Don't get troubled or agitated by that. You have to accept this brief light that falls upon your days, your lifetime. Take whatever joy you can, whatever life permits you, whatever joy that life permits you. And at the same time, you will have to submit. You will have to give way and suffer the ordeal, the test, the painful test of the scourge of fate. A scourge is a whip. You will have to suffer toil and grief and care, whatever amount fate gives you. Take what thou canst of life's permitted joy, suffer what thou must of toil and grief and care. So you can accept this little light that comes on your days, whatever joy you can, but you're going to have to also submit to this painful whip of fate. Suffer what thou must of toil, hard work, hard labor, and grief, and anxiety, worry. Ganga Lakshmi.
There shall approach, silencing the passionate heart, my long calm night of everlasting sleep, thereinto the rush from which thou cannot
Camest.
reply.
Yes. So he says, don't worry. Somehow, it's not going to last long. Coming towards you to silence all your passionate heart, your intense feelings. There's my long, calm night that's going to bring you everlasting sleep. In that night, you can withdraw into the silence from which you came. So meanwhile, accept the brief light that falls upon thy days. Accept, take what you can of joy. Submit to whatever suffering comes. Soon will come my long, calm night of everlasting sleep. That's what I'm offering you.
Shraddhavan, I have another question. When Shraddhavan said, my long, calm night, is the exile of life?
Sorry?
Is the exile?
He's talking about death.
When he tells, my long, calm night of everlasting sleep.
He's promising her that she will die.
Yeah.
And then she will sleep forever. There won't be any more joy or pain or passion or anything like that. You can just merge back into the silence. That's what he's offering her. That's what death offers us.
I would like to share two experiences.
Yes, Tom.
From this canto. The first one is I didn't realize till now that death is so poetic.
Well, Sri Aurobindo is the poet, of course, and he expresses himself. And of course, there is a certain attraction.
That's the second thing I to share. This, although my mind knows that there's coming a lot as answer on this, to be honest, I recognize so much of what he is saying myself.
Yes.
So that's confusing.
No, it's interesting, and we will get an, I think, if we read the next page, we will get a kind of answer to this. I remember when we were reading this, the last cycle of readings on Sunday mornings, there was a young Italian fellow, and he said, "Oh, now I get it. This is why Sri Aurobindo gives us this debate of love and death, because death is speaking with our voice. All the things that we say and we believe, he's putting them very, very convincingly. And it's good if we can recognize that, as you recognized it. So maybe we will read a little further, because if we read down to line 19, Savitri says, "O death, thou speakest truth, but truth that slays. I answer to thee with the truth that saves." So that's what death is saying. That's why it's so kind of convincing. It's because these are the truths that we recognize. But she's revealing, she's come to reveal a higher truth. She's bringing the new light, which casts a new light on all these things that he is saying. Mother was very, very interested by this book 10. And she started translating it into French. Because she felt, and I also feel, we've come across so much knowledge in the course of the poem. There's the secret knowledge in book 1, and then all this exploration of all the planes of existence in book 2, and then the meeting with the Divine Mother in book 3. There's the revelation of Savitri's birth and quest and all that, and what love is in book 5, end of book 5, Canto 2. Such a marvelous characterization of the truth of love. And then about pain. So there are many, many forms of knowledge. But it's when we come to book 10 that we feel that Sri Aurobindo gives us the answers. Through this debate of love and death, and particularly in the last canto, the dream twilight of the earthly real. And then, of course, in book 11, there's another kind of answer on the high spiritual level. But I must confess, I I haven't really assimilated all that. So we'll go back to the bottom of page 618. An extract pressed from hard experience, man's knowledge casked in the barrels of memory, has the harsh savour of a mortal draught. A sweet secretion from the erotic glands, flattering and torturing the burning nerves. Love is a honey and poison in the breast, drunk by it as the nectar of the gods. Earth's human wisdom is no great-browed power, and love no gleaming angel from the skies. If they aspire beyond earth's dullard air, arriving sunwards with frail waxen wings, how high could reach that forced unnatural flight? But not on earth can divine wisdom reign, and not on earth can divine love be found. Heaven-born, only in heaven can they live, or else there too, perhaps, they are shining dreams. Nay, is not all thou art and doest a dream? Thy mind and life are tricks of matter's force. If thy mind seems to thee a radiant sun, if thy life runs a swift and glorious stream, this is the illusion of thy mortal heart, dazzled by a ray of happiness or light. Impotent to live by their own right divine, convinced of their brilliant unreality, when their supporting ground is cut away, these children of matter into matter die. Even matter vanishes into energies vague, and energy is a motion of old naught. How shall the ideal's unsubstantial hues be painted stiff on earth's vermilion blur, a dream within a dream come doubly true? How shall the will-o'-the-wisp become a star? The ideal is a malady of thy mind, a bright delirium of thy speech and thought, a strange wine of beauty lifting thee to false sight, a noble fiction of thy yearnings made, thy human imperfection it must share. Its forms in nature disappoint the heart, and never shall it find its heavenly shape, and never can it be fulfilled in time. O soul, misled by the splendor of thy thoughts, O earthly creature with thy dream of heaven, obey resigned and still the earthly law. Accept the brief light that falls upon thy days. Take what thou canst of life's permitted joy. Submitting to the ordeal of fate's scourge, suffer what thou must of toil and grief and care. There shall approach, silencing thy passionate heart, my long, calm night of everlasting sleep. There into the hush from which thou camest, retire.